Hi everyone, happy Monday. So I was hoping to post this yesterday, but it just didn't come together. So we are going to be coloring in grains of gold. This is part of my tag this month, Cattober Color for John 2024. Here you can see some of the previous pages I've done in here. I think right now this is the only Hannah Carlson book I have colored in. And I've really wanted to do this next picture for a long time. And I figured this kitty right here with the TNT, I figured we would make this a double page spread. And I would use the same color palette, just different versions. So we're going to be using Neocolor II aquarels for the base, Castle Art pencils, the soft series for the pencil, and then background I'm using Delusion's shimmer paint, the light orange, what's it called, like tangerine or something. I'll put the colors in the description. I won't have all the colored pencils I used and everything else, but I can at least tell you which paints I used. So and this is kind of a demo for the Castle Art pencils. Those are the next pencils that Tammy and I are reviewing in our color pencil series. And so I've shown you, and I'll put in the top right here, I've shown you a Amazon page I used them on where I based with marker. And so I figured I would try them on a different type of paper. And Hannah Carlson's paper is not super smooth. It's actually got a little bit of a texture to it, which can make like using the Neocolors and stuff a little interesting when I'm not just using them for bases. I find that because of the texture on her paper, if I'm blending like watercolor or something for the background like I did with those two profile pictures, I tend to want to use like satin glazing liquid to give more time to mix the colors. Otherwise they just dry really quickly on the page and it's harder to blend water-based mediums together. So sorry, I just hit the mic. But when I'm just basing like this, it works just fine to color in a layer of Neocolor II and activate it, which is what we're doing here. Basically just scribbling like it's crayon. I don't use my Neocolor IIs very often, and it's like I can't hold a memory in my head anymore. It's like every time I get them out and I'm using them and I'm like, why don't I use these more? They're pretty easy to use like this. And I think the big problem is it's an 84 set and they don't really have like super light colors other than like a light green. I think there's a light orange, but to me they're missing a lot of light colors that I tend to use as base colors, because of course I'm going to go over with darker colors and colored pencil. And so as far as using these to base a picture like this, that's the reason I don't grab them as often. I have a lot of other colors, that other mediums that have lighter washes of color that I can use as a base color. But these are great for like if you want to blend them together in a background, maybe you're just using them on their own. They are pretty nifty in that they activate very easily with water and blend out really well without a whole lot of water having to be added. So, which is one of the things I love. I've used them on Amazon paper. They're alright. They just dry really quickly. Like I said, anytime you use like a gesso or that satin glazing liquid on a page before you add the watercolor, it basically turns it into watercolor paper. So it gives you like a whole lot more time to blend colors. In some ways it almost allows me to blend them a little too well. So I get in the mode of wanting to work and work and work at it, and I overwork a page. I did that earlier this summer, I think, with the gelatos, the Faber-Castell gelatos. So these are Caran d'Ache, by the way, the Neocolors. But But I figured I'd show you this part just scribbling. So kind of what we're going to do here is we're going to color in the cat. I'll show you how I do this side. Some parts of it will be sped up, some parts of it won't. I think this side is sped up a little bit. But then you'll see me in the next bit with the other page colored as well. So I just did portions. I think I show you a little bit of the colored pencil on the other page just because I didn't record everything I wanted for this page. Like, you'll see a little bit of me using colored pencil on the opposite side, but for the most part you're going to see me do this here, and then boom, both pages will be completed. It'll be very quick for you, but for me, it was so much easier since I wanted them both to have the same color palette. And these are relatively small, not relatively small, but not super elaborate pictures. So it was easy for me to just be like, I already have the colors pulled for this side, so let me just go ahead and do the steps on the other side as well. And I mostly enjoyed it until we got to the pencils, and I'll talk about that. But for the most part, I actually quite enjoyed it. I think this is just about one of the few books I've done double page spreads in. So that's pretty funny in of itself too. And yeah, you can just see here again, these dissolve really well, so I'm not worried about little scribbly lines from running these across the paper real quick. I don't go to any huge effort to make them super smooth because they will smooth out and dissolve with the water. And that's, like I said, one of the really good things about these that I do like. But yeah, that's why you don't see me use them as often, because I tend to just use them to base, to shade with pencil on the top, and I need to spend more time doing backgrounds with techniques like Neocolor IIs and inks and oil pastels and things like that. Those are things I do want to do. I just haven't had time. But I usually don't have time to even do this. And so I'm very grateful that this month, at least, that I've been able to color quite a bit. And I was really hoping to get another Cattober video in, like a demo, but it just didn't happen, unfortunately. However, I'm going to have a number of Cattober pictures for the month. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5, but it may be more like 6 or 7, but it's at least 5. So I'm happy for that. Thanks to everyone that has participated in that. I do need to go through Instagram and look at everybody's pictures, but it seems like a lot of people have participated this month, and I'm happy. And it's nice to remember John, and I'm sure, whoop, see, we just jumped. I'm sure if he could, he would absolutely, or I'm sure in my gut, wherever he's at, he's thoroughly enjoying the cat pictures. So, depending on what you believe, I suppose. So here we just bounced. As you can see, we have the right side also completed. Again, same colors. The only difference is the background for TNT Kitty is going to be the light orange color that I'll put in the description, and then the background for her is going to be a bright pink. So I made sure to just not utilize the pink Neocolor II in her image, and then the light orange in his. So since these two seem to be somewhat similar, because she's got the cat ears and all, I was sitting here and I was like, but she's got the cat skull on her little bomber pilot hat there. And so I think my story here is this kitty on the left with his TNT was kind of a kamikaze kitty. Like, maybe he just didn't throw these TNT or firecrackers in time, before they blew up, and thus she is wearing his skull on her on her hat, and that was the result. Um, that's the story I'm going to go with here. So he just got a little too excited and forgot to throw them in time. So, alas. Which you know he's already accident prone because he's got that patch over his eye. Like, this dude's already lived 8 of his 9 lives, and this was the 9th life right here. So here I am using my tried and trusty Arteza water brush with just the one type of brush. The pack comes with like 3 or 4 different types of brushes, and I always just use this kind of medium tip, even on tiny detail areas when I shouldn't. I'm just lazy like that. But this flows really well. I'm used to how the water disperses with this water brush. I know when I need to pump it to get more water and this and that. It's just, I can't say I recommend it over other brushes because I just really haven't tried them. I just know this one works for me, and so it's pretty much the only one I use, but I have a ton of them that I need to start using. So, but as you can see, just very easy activate with these Neocolor IIs. Like I said, these are really fun to color with because of just how loose they are and how non-precise you really have to be with them, because you can pull over the areas that you just kind of scribbled to smooth it out. Like you can see there with his little bag, how those little scribbly lines just disappear. And that just seems to be the thing. Like, these tend to be fairly expensive budget-wise. And unfortunately, it just seems to be, when it comes to water mediums, that the cheaper watercolor pencils and products just don't dissolve as easily with just a little bit of water and put out as much pigment. And so to get like a real color pop or super easy dissolve with minimal water, you really kind of have to invest in these different water medium type products. So and the thing that gets me is I tend to I have so many watercolor pencils, but the only ones that I really want to use on Amazon paper are like my Caran d'Ache Super Colors and my Museum Aquarelles. Yes, they are the more expensive watercolor pencils, but because they use such little water, I can actually use them on Amazon paper, and as long as I work quickly, like, you're not outputting as much water on the paper, so it doesn't shred the paper as much or cause it to be very fragile. And so, which is a little weird, but like a page like this, I can use any watercolor pencils I want. Alright, so again, we jumped. I went ahead and activated all the colors on the other side. I also used like a light skin tone for her skin. That was the one difference. I didn't really use that peach color on TNT Kitty side. What did I call this? I named this video yesterday. And Feline Dynamo. There you go. Our Feline Dynamo there. So again, just the base, and these are great in of itself. Like, if you really want a speedy way to just lay down some color and like you don't want to do any shading or anything like this, like later on in the video I'll show you where I'm adding like gel pens and chrome markers and super markers, and you could just do that here. Like, you could add gel pen and like all the little sparkly bits and pieces you want, and these would be great finished pictures on their own. However, like I said, I'm trying to use my colored pencils more. I've probably used colored pencils more this year consistently than I've used in like the past 6 years, which is cool. I'm actually pretty proud of that. And the colored pencil collection set that Tammy and I are doing is a huge part of that. So It's been a good incentive and I've really enjoyed it. So for this portion of the video, it is going to be in real time because I just kind of want to show you how these work. And I should have zoomed in more. I do apologize. So the Castle Art, this is the Castle Art Soft Series, not the Gold Series. It's just kind of the original set. And it's the 120 set. Again, I've already shown it on camera coloring with Arteza, or on Arteza. Oh my gosh. I am kerfluffled today. My flabbers are gasted. I can't think of things today. I'm getting dates wrong. I'm getting names wrong. Amazon paper. I've shown how these do on Amazon paper. And I thought they did alright. Like in terms of blending on the paper and shading, I like the result. However, you do have to apply heavier pressure with these pencils to get like a shading payout. I would not want to layer with these pencils because you would probably need more layers than the paper would allow. They just don't put out a ton of color like right off the bat, and I think it would take a long time to build up the color. I am a heavy pressure colorist, so basically when I shade, I go in like, as you can see here, with just the really dark color. I go dark, medium, and light. And then with the light, I'll go in and kind of blend all the colors together and then go over the lighter sections. Sometimes I'll go back and do another layer, depending on if I'm actually not... If it's a day I'm in the mood to just carefully build up color instead of this quick shading I'm doing here, sometimes I'll do that, you know, a couple times and build up layers, but most of the time I don't do that, just because the longer I use color pencils, the harder it is on my arms and hands. And so most of the time I'm just wanting to throw some shading over a base color and call it a day. So I find this is the best technique for me, but of course everybody's different. And that's one of the reasons Tammy and I are doing the colored pencil collection together, because she colors in some ways different than I do. And a lot of times she uses just pencils, and she probably doesn't use the heavy pressure I do, and this and that. So like with both of us looking at it, you can kind of see it from her perspective of how she colors and then how I color with them. And it's interesting to see our different takes on them depending on what we're trying to do with them. So so with the colors, like I said, it's 120 set. I will say I think the newer, now my pencil set was bought in like 2019. I can't quite remember. It was a while back. And the set I bought just has numbers. I do believe the newest ones also have names, but correct me if I'm wrong. And again, this is an older set. The formula may have changed. I always try to put that disclaimer there. But these are numbered, and the numbers and the colors don't really make a lot of sense. Like, I wish when they curate these sets, they would put color families together, like in numbers, where when you're swatching them, like everything's together in the shade pattern it should be, like color families and stuff are together. I wish they would do that, but the colors and the numbers are just kind of all over the place. Like there'll be some blue greens that are like 117, and then some that are like 147, and it's just, yeah, I don't get it. It does make swatching a little frustrating and a little difficult. If I really love these pencils, I would probably sit down and take the time to try to build a color family chart. I know that there are people out there that do those. I have not yet looked for a Castle Art one, just because I'm not super in love with these pencils. So I don't know if I want to go the trouble, but for the sake of the review video, I'll see if I can find one. But yeah, like a lot of the shades feel very similar, very close together. I have a hard time telling red oranges and reds apart. So that's a constant issue for me. But like, it's like that with other shades, like greens and blues. There are some that are just really close together, and literally when I'm trying to pick like a 3 shade combo to blend, two of the colors in some of these cases look almost exactly the same on paper, and so it's very hard in some ways to build 3 color combinations with a lot of the colors really close together. However, if you're only using 1 or 2 shades at a time and you tend to run through pencils quickly, that could also be a benefit to you, because then these are not open stock. You have to buy the full set if you want more of the pencils. And so if you have a lot of colors that are very close to each other, then you have, like, say 2 or 3 pencils you could use as a dark blue. If you run through pencils quickly, that gives you more time with the set before you have to buy another set. So depending on how you use them, again, that could be a benefit. But yeah, so I would say that that's one issue I have with them. They're not, so I mean, obviously I'll do a full review, but I think most of you, like, if you listen to my demos, like, you pretty much know what I'm gonna say about these, though I have been had my mind changed halfway through before. um like I said, the palette's not super great. There's just a lot of colors that are close together, which makes it hard to pick 3 color combos. The numbering system is weird, so that it's hard to put color families together with the names. And depending on how, if they supply a chart now, I don't know if they did or I just used my own chart. It might be better now, but just with these, it's not super intuitive. um, so I do a 3 color combo, but usually the lightest pencil is pretty much the same shade as like the base color. So I'm mostly just using it to blend, and then just very lightly, I mean, that's the whole reason for the base color, is it sort of acts as your third pencil. But I still like to use it just to kind of blend the other 2 colored pencils a little bit. That's kind of what I'm doing here. This is the lightest shade, and I'm just really putting more pressure where the darker colors are to blend them together, and then lightly going over where I've left the Neocolor showing through. That's, I mean, pretty much, if I was going to do a real slow demo on how I do this, that's pretty much what I do. Um, but, and you can see, like, as much as I love just the base color itself, like, these are really bright and nice. Like, you look at the difference between his head and his one paw compared to his other paw and tail, and just the shading just adds so much dimension to it. And as troublesome as some pencil sets can be, like in terms of having to really put heavy pressure to get color output and stuff, I found that this collection, doing these reviews, is helpful because it's really helping me be more picky and mindful. If I'm not enjoying coloring with the pencil sets, then there's no point in keeping them. And because of the things that I named, like right now this pencil set's kind of on the fence. I actually had a backup set that I've given away already. I bought them, they were like way marked down on sale, and I kept them as a backup set. But honestly, with coloring with these, um, I just haven't really enjoyed coloring with them. They look okay once I use them, but compared to some of the other sets like the Artisto and the Arteza and the Artix pencils, like, it's almost a chore to color with these compared to those. Those are a lot easier to color with and more enjoyable. So I don't see myself reaching for these very often. Now, again, this in no way impacts the Castle Art Gold series as a different set of pencils, and just based on what little I've colored with, I do feel like it's a different formula, a different type of pencil. It is a little more expensive. So those are coming in a separate review, and those do have a different color and output to them. So this is just for the soft series. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on them. I have one more page I was going to use them on, like a Lulu Mayo page, but honestly, I'm just not loving coloring with them. So I think like this page and the Amazon page are going to be it. And then when I do the review, of course, we will demo on Joanna Bassford and Rita Berman. I think those are the two we use. And so that'll be enough, I think. I would rather just grab another pencil set that I like to use for um, this other page I have that I want to do in pencil, a pencil overlay this month. So if you don't want to wait for the review, that's kind of just my thoughts on them so far. And probably going to be my thoughts on them. In fact, I'm probably going to go ahead and do the review here in a week or two and just wait. Tammy's is the big, so like a lot of times when you're looking at colored pencil sets, you want to know like real in depth, do colors blend together to make new colors? How did these color on black paper versus white paper? How many layers does it take before the paper gets um, to the point you can't put any more layers on it? Like there's real in-depth testing a lot of people do with colored pencils, and Tammy's is like she does the heavy lifting in this collaboration. And so hats off to her. I always let her, I want her review to go first just so people can see like the whole one end to the other of how these pencils work. And then a couple weeks after she posts hers, then I'll post mine. And mine's just a shortened version that's kind of like, here's the set, here's me using it over marker or watercolor, then here's a couple demos of it just by itself, little pictures, and then y'all get kind of my breakdown of it. And that's just pretty much how they run. So of course we're out of the A's, I think. We were supposed to go to Black Widow next, but there was a request for the Castle Arts, and so we moved those up. At the rate we're going, if Tammy's watching this, I'm pretty sure we'll be done about 2035. So, okay, maybe not that bad, but we have a lot of sets, a lot of similar sets. So, but again, it's all about mindfulness. And as much as I like coloring things, oh, I wanted to show you like the pants in real time as well. As much as I want to show you coloring thing, or I want to collect coloring things, and I love having a lot of different sets and this and that. I'm getting to the point now where I spent a lot of time like collecting. I would find one thing that, like watercolors, and I would find like Lindsay the Frugal Crafter, and like she would show all these watercolor sets, and I'm like, oh, I need all these watercolor sets. And so now I've wound up with like, I think I'm going to have 3 or 4 different metallic sets by the time it's all done. I have a number of iridescent sets, this and that. Like I get all the things, right? Because they all look good. And I'm grateful that I can do that. However, I've kind of reached a point where there's not a whole lot of new mediums or things that I want. I just look, and if there's something new or small in particular that I want, I'll get it then. But like that's really kind of dropped off. And for instance, like I'm not big on granulating watercolors. However, I think it was Happy Catastrophe using the Kuretake Gansai Tambi granulating colors that are out. And I absolutely love the effects those have because it's like multicolor granulating. And I love that effect. So like I did pick those up, and I will show those soon. I'm waiting on one more set of Dreamland watercolors that yeah, I just said that, and now I'm like watercolor. But I really want to spend like the next year using what I have and really figuring out, do I want this? Do I need this? Can I just keep what I want and what I love to use, not necessarily holding on to everything just because they're all art supplies, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So it's just being more mindful, I guess, about purchasing and what I have. does this bring you joy kind of thing, which I guess like it's like coloring books and art. Like all art stuff brings me joy, but like is it something I'm going to actually use is going to be the next thing. So that's kind of what I'm doing for the next year. Though Christmas is coming up, and I've been kind of thinking like there are a couple sets, like I've thought about the Pablo pencil sets, I've thought about the polycolors. I really just don't want to go with shoot, the real like high end begins with an H, and I can't think of them offhand. The real expensive colored pencils that are out there, that are like, the primo ones, and they're like $300. I don't know, that price has probably went up by now, but a couple years ago they were like $300, and I can't think of anything today, y'all. Like I don't see myself getting those, just because I've got plenty of pencils, and I don't see, unless they have a unique thing about them that just makes them really stand out to me. I don't know. Maybe I'll get a small set one day just to try. I've kind of thought about that with the Pablos, like the polycolors. Couple of sets like that. I do eventually. I still don't have the new 30 colors that they released for ink tints, just because I am frustrated with Derwent for not just offering those in a set by themselves. Like they were available in Europe first, and they were extremely expensive. It was like what, $80-$90 to get all those pencils, like for 30 pencils. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I don't use my ink tints enough to justify that. Some people can. Some people use their ink tints a lot. But I was like, I don't use it very much, so we're just gonna wait. And I do want to pick those up. They're finally, I think, available in open stock on some art supply sites. But they were still like $3 a pencil. Again, it was going to be more like $90. And I'm like, just make these available as a set. But then the expanded set with them in it's like 2 or 3 times as much as the original 72 set or whatever was. And I was like, y'all need to quit taking advantage and bring that price down. Like, there just reaches a point where, like, I know I sometimes get spendy on stuff, but like if I feel like the company's trying to take me for more money than it's worth, I'm just not gonna bite. Like, just not gonna do it. And so like I do still need to get those. I was kind of interested in the Tim Holtz watercolor pencils. I see Happy Catastrophe using those a lot. However, I think those are more like, you don't necessarily like color with them and then activate them. It's more like taking off the pencil tends to work better with those, with like putting the brush to the pencil. And I don't know, like, if I'm going to do that, I might as well just use watercolor, right? Like, so I don't know. I got to do more research on those. But little things like that, like, I'll probably supplement or try. But for the most part, like, I have the marker brands I like. When I run out, I will probably buy the same brands I have now. Same with the pencils. I have certain pencil sets that I just really enjoy using. So I might as well just focus on using my purchases for rebuilding those sets, buying either new sets or open stock. But anyway, I don't know why I rambled on about all that, but I did, and but it's coloring related, so it's fine. But this is the thing, at the end of the day, this is, as I've said numerous times, this is a judgment-free zone when it comes to coloring or hobbies or hobby purchasing. Like, I'm not out here judging anybody for what they buy, how often they buy, what they spend their money on. I don't pay your bills. I don't I don't pay you rent. I don't pay your rent. I don't pay your bills. You are grown folk. I am not the budget police. So if you like buying lots of things and you like collecting as well as using the mediums and the books and stuff, because this type of hobby can be a collecting hobby as well as a actual coloring hobby. I feel like in a lot of cases it can be just as much collecting the art and the mediums as it is the actual coloring itself. Then go for it. I'm not going to sit here and shame or talk crap about anybody that does anything that I'm not personally doing. It is, as far as I'm concerned, we all just enjoy coloring and we all enjoy art, coloring art, even if we like different things, and same with mediums and this and that. And there's some of you that will absolutely love the castle art sets and they are perfect for what you need. And so at the end of the day, when I say, I'm probably going to not keep them, it's because they just don't work for me. But they do work for somebody out there, and there are people that have them and love them and use them. And so my opinion, this is just my opinion only from how I color and what works best for me. So I guess in saying all that, I can, so that's kind of my demo, kind of my thoughts on the castle arts. They do provide good results, but you just have to work a little harder with them. And because I don't like using pencils as much, and because I don't have as much time to color as I would like, I just want a quicker result without having to work quite so hard and put so much pressure when I color that it's causing pain in my hand. I want it to be as pain-free and enjoyable as possible. And so the castle arts just don't work for me, the soft series in that regard. So, but you'll see like I say, you'll see my review on that probably here in the next couple weeks. I'm sure before the end of the year. I don't know we don't really have a schedule. Tammy and I both work full time, so we are very laid back in that we will get done when we get it done. So this is not our full-time job. This does not pay our rent. This does not pay our bills. And so okay, so it's probably going to speed up in a minute. Yeah, I actually show you in a little bit faster time some shading on this hat helmet thing contraption we have over here, because I just showed you a little bit on the other side, and I thought I had just showed you the pants actually, so I didn't cut this quite right, but that's okay. I have plenty to babble about, so I just wanted to show you a different color where you can really see the shading. The yellow, like on his shirt, you can on I can't think of what I called him. Our Feline Dynamo. I did have other colors of yellow, but again, the yellows are so close together you can't really see them on here, even though I've turned the brightness down. I can see them like in natural light, but I just can't see it here. And so I wanted to show you these shading in areas that you can really see the colors. So anyway, after all that, I did provide in the flip through earlier this week a little bit of an update at the very end, so some of this may be repeating, but for those of you that didn't hear that, things are okay here. Like, it really should be more laid back and relaxed, but I have been going at like level 10 anxiety for so long that even though the anxiety level's down a little bit, like my body's just not adjusting. I don't know. I thought about setting up a couple massage therapy appointments to like force my body to loosen up, and maybe that's the trick. I feel like we've just been going at a 10 for so long that now my body's like, nope, this is where I'm at. You can't make me relax. So part of that's been cat health issues. When I came back from Seattle in September, sorry, I'm saying a lot. When I came back from Seattle in September, Winry wound up with a UTI, and we've kind of just had problems since I got back. She had the UTI. We got rid of that completely. She went in. She was cleared the 5th of October from that. We've been using Zofran injections, and then we stopped using them. She seemed like she was fine, and so we weren't really watching her eat. She is the type, she doesn't want to sit there and have anybody watch her eat. She doesn't like any of the other cats getting near her. The slightest thing makes her just stop eating. So most of the time she does a lot of her eating at night, like when everything's quiet. So I just assumed that she was back to normal. Her weight was back to where it should be. And then the next week, she was having some litter box issues, not pee, the other thing. And just one day she was fine. Next day she acted like she wasn't. And so she went back to the vet, and she had dropped a pound without us realizing. And ever since then, we've been trying to get her back up to 6.5 pounds and trying to get her to eat. And we are just having the vet's pretty mystified at this point what's going on. She just had an x-ray on her stomach when she went for the UTI thing at the emergency vet. She just had like an x-ray on her stomach, and they see gas buildup there, but like the vet said, the gas buildup may be very well because she's just not eating, and like she's kind of perpetuating her own problem here. And like her kidneys showed to be no huge change, and her heart murmur wasn't showing any change. But when she went a couple weeks ago, we did GI relief capsules to try to help firm up things in the potty department. And she went back on Zofran shots twice a day as an anti-nausea med. And we started giving her fluids daily because she was also dehydrated. And with those kidneys, we have to be real careful with that. So much to her disagreement, we started doing the daily fluids and 2-time shots. And this is a cat that does not like to be held or confined. And I know it has been stressful for her. It's gotten to the point where she was already flighty with us anyway. She's still got that kind of feral DNA in her, even though I've had her since she was 6 months old, and she's like 18. Like, she still has always been very flighty and bouncy and doesn't like to be held or confined, or even if she thinks somebody's coming for her to pick her up, she will run. She wants to come to me and lay on me, not the other way around. Well, I wouldn't lay on her, but she doesn't want me to come get her for anything. And so I knew she wasn't feeling well because the first few nights, like, it was a whole lot easier to get her held. It's a 2-person job, though. My husband has to hold her, and he has a vasovagal, I think is what you call it, reaction with needles, where like when he goes to get blood work done, like they have to lay him down on a bed, otherwise he will just slide out into the floor like he's liquid and pass out. So he does not do well with needles, and so these are very large needles we're using for the IV fluid and these Zofran shots. So the fact that he can hold her and like not pass out just seeing them is super helpful. And like I've told him over and over again how much I appreciate him doing that for her to help make her feel better, even though I know it really gives him anxiety. So he's just been super supportive through it all, and I couldn't be more grateful for that. But we have to tag team it, and that first week she did great. She gained 0.5 pound. She was like eating little bits and pieces all the time. I was giving her some new food to try, and everything looked really good, and she seemed like she's getting stronger. And then the next week we decided to switch to the Zofran tablets because I thought they'd be less stressful than the shots. And we went to fluids every other day, and she still had another week of the GI capsules, and then she didn't gain any more weight. She stayed at 6 pounds. Like, she lost like an ounce or something, but basically 6 pounds. And I was like, okay, she really needs another half pound on her because 6 pounds isn't a lot for a cat. And so we talked about it and we were like, let's go back to the shots this week, because the shots probably do work better than the pills, especially for stomachs being super sensitive. We'll still do the fluids every other day, and she's off the GI capsules. And then we weighed her today, and she gained that tenth of a pound back, but like she's still basically at 6 pounds. So the vet's kind of perplexed. She doesn't really know. There's been no sign that she has anything going on in her digestive system as far as they can tell. They don't see any sort of tumor. There might be just the slightest thickening of her intestinal wall, which, for anybody experienced with that with animals, that could be a sign of IBD, or it could be cancer, but basically like a lymphoma, but the treatment for both is essentially the same, and the length of time, like, they're both about the same, and she can't have prednisone because she has kidney disease. So, but it was very slight, and they didn't see anything else. So we don't really know at this point. The vet said this week, let's go back to fluids daily. Maybe, and we haven't done a day kidney panel on her since she got over the UTI. She just had it done like a month ago. So I mean, there could be some lasting damage from where she had that UTI. It's possible. But I don't really want to go through the stress of taking her back to the vet right now if we can avoid it. Right now we're trying to just, it's a quality of life thing. We're just trying to do everything we can to make her happy. And even if it means like she's not got a super long time, that's, okay, just as long as she's happy. I mean, it's not okay, but it's it's the reality of the situation. And so we're going to try fluids every day this week and see. She does seem to handle it well enough, so I think we can do it. It's still stressful. She still runs more now every time she sees me, and I hate that. But overall, she's playing with her mice. She's not hiding. She's going up and down the stairs a lot. She even seemed a little bit playful this weekend. So, like, she is doing really well. She seems like, for the most part, she's doing well. We just can't. Every 2 or 3 days, we'll have a food that she'll eat really well for a couple of days, and then all of a sudden she'll just stop eating it, and I have to bring in other food. And so now my pantry, my cat pantry, looks like a full-size, like, specialty pet food store because of all the different types of foods. And it would be different if she was hiding and seeming like she was in pain and just uncomfortable and just sleeping all the time and just miserable. I've had cats like that. I know for most of my cats, I've known like, hey, it's time, we need to probably look at other options. If I thought she was nearing that point in her life, I'm not trying to do all this stuff for me. And she's not improving from any of it. But she's doing really well. It's just she's not putting on enough weight, and she's not eating enough. And I just don't want it to cause her to feel bad down the road. We're just trying to make her feel like she feels pretty good right now. I want her to continue feeling good. And so that's, before anybody gets this idea of, oh, I'm just trying to prolong this for my sake and I'm being selfish and this and that. No, she is sleeping on me all night, every night. She is playing with her mice. She is active. She is outside. She'll go outside and nap in the sun. Like, she is very present and wanting to be here. So, all right. So, had to take a brief break to take care of something. So we're at the point where I am adding in little, the glitz and glam, I like to call it. So we're using, like, I'm using a black glaze jelly roll gel pen to fill in some of these details. I will say that if you're going to use gel pens, I find that if you know for sure you're going to use gel pens over an area, I wouldn't put pencil on it, because I have a lot more trouble, and it may not be all pencils, but at least for the Castle Arts, it is difficult to use gel pen over the colored pencil. Like, it doesn't want to go down very smoothly. So that is one tip I would share. But I used a black glaze gel pen. I used some Pentel Dual Hybrid gel pens. I have these chroma markers. Hang on. I'm looking at them while I'm talking to you. The chrome marker set that Christopher had given me, they're gold and silver. I use them a lot for like the little piercings and the buttons and the belt buckles. You'll see that. Use a white gel pen to just clean up some of the white areas, add in some little white highlights in the eyes. Here I am using one of those gold chroma markers. They're not super shiny. They definitely kind of have more of a metal chrome, I guess thus the name of them, type of appearance. But yeah, just adding little bits and bobs to this before I start working on the background. I wanted the pictures to basically be completely done, and then we just add a layer of paint to the background and call it a day, because that's just how I roll. These were fun pictures to do. They were fairly quick pictures to do, but definitely the more time, I don't like to spend a lot of time on pictures. I don't bounce around a lot between pictures unless I'm doing something that I can do in a batch. Like, for instance, I use Neocolor IIs as a base here on these two pictures and as a base in a Lulu Mayo book for a buddy color this month. So while I had them out, I just went ahead and based all three pictures, and then I just would come in and add pencils later. So like sometimes I'll do batch stuff like that, but for the most part, I tend to just work on pictures till I finish them. And so that's what I'm doing here. Oh, and so talked about Winry. We also had a situation where Bagheera, where he first got diagnosed with Cushing's in June of last year, and he had been throwing up, losing some weight, like throwing up very consistently, oftentimes like right after he came out of the litter box. So like we knew it was likely due to like stomach pain. And so we went in, his symptoms, the water drinking, everything, because he was already diabetic, pointed to Cushing's, which is involves like his body's producing too much steroid, and it basically can mess up his blood sugar, it can mess up his thyroid more. He already has thyroid issues, but there's not a super longevity associated with Cushing's, but he has, I think I read that only 50% of cats make it past the 1 year mark, and he's at a year and a half, and he is doing well. So I'm grateful for that. It's usually 1 to 3 years for that type of diagnosis, but we had to put him on gabapentin because of the stomach pain, to reduce the vomiting. But unfortunately, the gabapentin and the muscle wasting from Cushing's have caused weakness in his back legs. So we have pet stairs through the house so he can get up on furniture if he wants. He even went up the stairs yesterday, my husband told me, which never happens anymore unless he's feeling real good. Quick jump here to we are working on the backgrounds. I'm going to show you guys how I paint here. I'm using these Transcend art brushes. I'm not sure if these were a gift or I picked these up because I heard a good review of them. I've not had a chance to try them out, but you know what? I really liked them. They did very well with this paint. And one of the reasons I like the Delusion Shimmer paint, I don't put a very thin coat of paint on, but it doesn't bunch up, it doesn't bubble or give me trouble. Haha, made a rhyme. When I put that thick layer on. And oftentimes, as you'll see here, one layer with just some touch-ups here and there is usually enough. And that's what I love about them. I love some of the other art and craft paints, and I do want to use acrylic paint more often. But oftentimes you have to have two layers. I have like gold and silver paint and stuff, but oftentimes you need two or more layers to really get um, a opaque effect, and that is troublesome for me, just because, like I said, I'm always trying to find. I'm. I wouldn't say I'm lazy. I am kind of lazy. Okay, I'm kind of lazy. Honestly, I don't like spending a ton of time on pictures. So most of the time, the mediums that I'm drawn to are things that can give me effects quickly, like certain types of pencils shade better, and I don't have to use as much pressure. Watercolors that dilute very easily and quickly that I can just scribble on, like in this picture. Paint that I only have to use one layer with. Gel pens that are opaque and give me an effect really quickly. I'm still in the search for a good white uh, gel pen that covers marker and doesn't, like, for deep red purples and reds, doesn't like bleed through and show the color underneath. I still haven't had a lot of luck with that. The only thing that really has worked is the Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White, which I actually do use in this picture. I go over the lines in the little firecracker type imagery, and but it's in a little pot that you have to dip a brush in and paint, and like I really need the people of that company to take that and put it in a pen, like a paint pen. Put the bleed proof white in a paint pen, and I will buy a gazillion of them, and that will be the only white type of paint pen that I will ever purchase. So, not that I think anybody from there's listening. I probably need to go leave a review like that on Amazon. I don't know. Message or customer service, do something like that. But anyway, the shimmer paint is, I love it because it is a small bottle. Like you could, for the, I don't know, $6 this paint is, you could probably buy a 2 ounce bottle for of the apple barrel or something like that. However, because it's only one coat, I don't have to use as much of it, so it lasts a long time. So it's kind of like, do I pay $6 for a 1 ounce where I only have to use one coat, or do I pay $6 for a 2 ounce bottle where I may have to use two or more coats, right? Like it kind of evens out there in terms of monetary spending. So, but what I'm doing right now is just going around the edging with him. I probably should have used a smaller, more detailed brush, but again, I call this good enough. I try very hard not to get caught up in details when I'm coloring, because I do that a lot in life, and oftentimes one of the things coloring has helped me with is not focus so much on the details, because I have found at the end of the day, when the picture is finished, the few things that I pick up on that I think are flawed because, I'm hung up on details nobody else sees. Like at the end of the day, the picture still turns out fantastic. So feel like there's a life lesson there for a perfectionist, I guess. Anyway, what I was saying about Bagheera is he also gets a Silencia shot each month. So he's diabetic. He takes insulin. He now takes melatonin for the Cushing's. He takes thyroid medicine for his thyroid. He also gets a Silencia shot once a month to help, because he does have severe arthritis, because he is a very big framed cat, and he also carried a lot of weight a lot in his life. I will say it is very hard to monitor cats' special diet needs when you have, for many years I had 11 of them, and you have some that only eat at night under the cover of darkness, and so you have to leave food out for them, which means the ones that shouldn't get food all the time have access to food. And so we did the best we could. But numerous reasons he has arthritis. But the Silencia shot helps immensely. And usually his worst time of day is he gets gabapentin in the morning, and in a very small dose of steroid. It sounds counterintuitive, but the type of steroid he gets is like 1 milligram. It's a very small amount. It does help with his digestion issues. I don't understand it myself, but I trust my vet. So he gets that every other day. He gets a lot of medicine, kind of like Winry at this point. And his worst time of day is about 2 or 3 o'clock. For some reason, his muscle weakness gets the worst during that time of day, and like he's not in pain. He's just, I think, as the gabapentin has a sedating effect, it makes his back legs feel numb, and so he shuffles around a little bit during that time. Like he doesn't move around as much, but the rest of the day he is motoring along just fine for the most part. Well, ever since he got diagnosed with Cushing's, got put on all this treatment, he hasn't been throwing up, which is great. The gabapentin's doing its job. But we noticed the last couple weeks he has started throwing up again, every 2 or 3 days, and we were finding it right next to the litter box, which again indicates that he's probably in pain when he's using the bathroom, which is causing his stomach to not do well. So he was due for senior wellness anyway in November, so we moved that up to today. And I asked the vet, I said, can I give him anti-nausea med? We're like a pharmacy here at this point, because of the cats. I was like, I have Zofran, I have Serenia. And she's like, we'll give him the Serenia. And because Serenia does work, is a little stronger than Zofran, I guess. So we do that, and then Thursday, about an hour later, I come through about 2 or 3 o'clock, and he is laying in my office, like acting like he can't get up, and he basically couldn't move his back legs at all. Scared me and my husband like terribly. We were very concerned that he had had a stroke. He had, a blood clot. Something severe had happened, and he couldn't walk. And so we immediately took him to the vet, both me and my husband, because I was really worried about the outcome. And they had to work us in, so it took about 3 hours sitting there waiting, which was fine. They were busy. I completely understood. And it's a good thing in a way, because by the time he got back there and they pulled him out of the carrier, he actually was able to stand on his back legs and walk. It was a shuffle, but he could walk on, actually put weight on his legs. And so what had happened was Serenia, also, and again, any of the meds and treatments I am talking about with cats, I'm just putting this disclaimer there. Do not take, I am not a vet. Do not take what I'm doing and say, oh yeah, my cat's showing the signs of this, I need to do this with them. Please, please, please take them to the vet and consult with your vet before doing any of these treatments. If anybody else out there has cats that are going through similar things, I like to share this just so you can have these conversations with your vets. I'm not a vet, so I'm not giving vet pet medical pet advice, or whatever you want to call it, pet health advice. But it feels weird I have to say that, but I really feel like I do. Needs to be said. And so what had happened, what we theorize happened, is that Serenia does have a sedation effect just because of how it works, and because he already is on such a strong dose of gabapentin, and he's normally kind of shuffly, weak-legged at that point of day. I should not have given him the Serenia at that time, but I didn't know, and the vet didn't think about it either, and so it just completely not fully sedated him, but like sedated him to the point where he couldn't walk. And but after, normally by 5-6 o'clock, even on normal days, he's walking better here and he's fine. And that's what happened. We just needed to give it time. So no more Serenia for him. But I was so grateful. I really was worried it was something severe, and he was all alert other than that and fine. And it was like, I was just terrified that it was something we wouldn't be able to resolve. So so grateful for that. He came home. He ended up peeing in the carrier because he had been holding his bladder the whole time, I guess, because he'd been trying to go to the litter box. Poor guy. But But that was fine. We had pee pads in there. We tried to get him to use the litter box at the vet, and he just wasn't having it. But he came home. She's like, you can use the Zofran if he does throw up. We didn't have to use it all weekend. He didn't throw up again. And he went in for his senior wellness today. Instead of having to drop him off, we were able to collect some of his pee because that's part of the senior wellness exam. And I all I'm going to tell you is it involves a ladle that is now specifically for cats, and in this very type of collection activity. But I can tell you that probably other than half of those cats would never abide letting me try to sneak up on them in the litter box and do that. And honestly, I'm surprised Big Girl let me do it. But it saved us having to drop him off at the vet and cause him more stress. He could just go in directly this morning and get his blood drawn. So I am grateful for that. We will hopefully get the results of that tomorrow and get a follow-up. Quickly, I do want to interject here. You can see I've moved to this wide flat brush as part of that Transcend set. And I am just probably putting down more paint than I need to. But again, that one coat is just doing its job, let me tell you. Where I painted around the cat, it was very loose. And there were some areas where it was not as opaque, so I do go in and touch up a little bit there. But like, oh my gosh, and the shimmer, you can see it on this page. This is my favorite color of the shimmer, which the pink is really nice too. I don't recommend the white paint, by the way. If you look at these paints on the Ranger Ink website and get them, I do not recommend the white because it does yellow. I've already had that happen on one of my pictures. I used it and I was quite disappointed. So I do not recommend the white. However, all the shimmer paints I've used have worked really well. The black isn't as shimmery as I think it could be, but like these medium colors, like a light orange or a light pink, these lighter to medium colors really, really shine, as you can see. And they're just stunning. Stunning. And that's all I needed for the background, right? Like, because he is the he is the shine, right? He just needed the shine in the background to help reflect him. But anyway, the one thing with Bagheera is his thyroid numbers are high. We have maxed out his thyroid meds. He is not a candidate for any type of radiation therapy or anything because he is also diabetic. He is 16 and he also has Cushing's. So it pretty much eliminates him as eligible for that treatment. And so I don't know what we're going to do. It is not, other than possibly the vomiting, it's not really impacting his life much right now. So we're just kind of monitoring it. But there's a possibility I may have to try to supplement with some thyroid food for him. The problem is I don't think he's going to exclusively just eat that. So I don't know. I'm going to talk to my vet tomorrow. And of course I trust her and we will come up with the best course of action. But yeah, a lot of drama going on with the cats right now. And here we go. So I did the pink shimmer on the opposite side. And as you can see, this is in direct sunlight. I did use the bleed proof white around those little like the flames or the little explosions from the TNT to just give it a little extra pop, if you will. Yeah, no, I think I'm so happy with how these turned out. Like, I think the images themselves turned out really great with the base and then the shading, but like the extras I added and then that background just really make these pictures stand out, and I couldn't be happier with how these turned out. I really, really am pleased. I think the only thing would have been if the pencils had been a little bit easier to use and I had enjoyed using them instead of being a little frustrated by them, but we've already talked about that. So, yeah, so I have a few other things I'm going to talk about real quick, but like if you just wanted to be here to see the finished pictures, If you have any questions on how I did this that I didn't cover in the video, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I will link to the pencils I used, to the Neocolors I used, I won't have specific colors because I didn't write them down, but I will link to the specific paint colors I used on the Ranger Ink website, though you may be able to find them on Amazon as well. They do have some of the colors. But I will link to everything I can think of that I used in here. And like I said, I have been very fortunate, and that's what I was going to talk about. Again, if you just want to hop off, I appreciate you dropping by. Hopefully, we'll be back Friday or Saturday with completed pages. We will have to see how the week goes. Those will be for both September and October. So there's that. And what was I going to say? Oh, I've been, like really able, today is an exception, but I've really been able to get like some of the use mediums that are different than just markers, but use my markers a lot. Like I've been able to color this much, like I've really been wanting to for like 6 years. It has been a really good month. I still haven't colored quite as much as I want, but being able to use my paints, being able to use different mediums like this and get into some of my other books that aren't Amazon books has been really awesome. A lot of that has been thanks to the fact that I've moved to a new role at my company. I am still doing email marketing, but instead of specifically like training and certification type stuff, I am doing it for more like global campaigns, like higher level technology based emails and like virtual programs and events they have during the year. And because of that, I just had to wrap up some things with my previous team, and then transitioning the onboarding process has been very balanced. It's not been super overwhelming. I've been so grateful for that with what's been going on with Winry and Bagheera. Coloring has helped serve as a bit of a distraction from all that. And I've just had room to breathe this month, which is the first time in 2 years, basically, I've really had at this at this company. So I'm very optimistic about this team. It's I really like the previous team. I like the people I worked with, but there was a lot of issues with the process, with plans for next year, with a lot of restructuring and movement. We had a good product, but nobody seemed to really know what to do with it. And there were just a lot of nuances to the job that made it very challenging. And given the way life has been this year and the last few years, I just needed something. I wanted to, grow and move to a different team. This team's growing. They've got a bunch of new programs for next year. They've got a bunch of resources because they do a lot of high-end PR type events that get a lot of attention. It's a wide variety of a team that has a lot of other people involved in the email marketing process. It's a lot more process-based, task-based. It does seem like there's a lot more of a work-life balance with this role. My leadership team is excellent, and they seem very, very focused on making sure that they are properly staffed and that they have the resources that they need. We even have a resource manager that's coming on the team to make sure everybody's well balanced. And I'm really excited about it. There are still some overarching things with the company that I struggle with, but there are many benefits to this role, to this company, and I do enjoy the work I'm doing. I enjoy the teams that I work with, and I'm hoping that this is a step to a direction that is less burnout and more balanced when it comes to work and my life in general. So it's probably going to be a little, again, I am used to having work anxiety and things to do and constant moving things around because things aren't working right and we're missing things, like having constant chaos I'm used to that in my role about 80%, 80 to 90% of the time. And like here, it's more of like maybe 20 to 30. And so while I've had time to take a breath, I really haven't, because I'm worrying about the cats. I'm taking stuff that I shouldn't be worrying so much about, but I'm letting it take up space in my head, and kind of take over. I also worry about things like the upcoming election. I am not a fan of either choice. I'll be honest with you. I tend to be a very, um, I don't know what the term is. I don't want to call myself a liberal because I feel like that has weird connotations, but I'm very much social, like very much left leaning, and I'm not really thrilled with the choices we have. However, I feel like the more conservative choice, I don't really want to use words, the more conservative choice is going to wind up taking away a lot of rights and a lot of things that we take for granted. And so I feel like it's like the lesser of two evils. And I feel like as a country, we've been stuck in that mode for decades. And I think everybody's just getting kind of tired of it. Like, I don't know about y'all, but when I get a pulse of people as a whole right now, like humanity as a whole, but even the country is not doing well right now mentally. Like, we are just collectively having a time, and we've really had a time since the pandemic. But like, I don't know. I worry a lot about the future and like how different, how hard, much harder things might get depending on who gets elected. Like, I feel like we're going in the wrong direction, and I don't understand. It's hard to understand, but and I'm struggling a lot with that. I do have a therapist though, and we talk a lot about it. And obviously some things are out of my control. I just There are certain things in life that bring me joy, and I just worry, like, are those going to be things that are still accessible to me in the future? And I know I'm being very vague here. Anyway, so I worry about that a lot. I know a lot of people are worried about that. Just, I don't know. Like, everything feels really hard for everybody right now, and I don't see it getting any better really either direction, but I see like a slow boil versus just throwing us in there and putting the lid on. So like either throwing lobsters in the boiling pot or boiling the frog slowly. Like, I feel like this is where we're at, as a country, and I don't know how we come out of either one of those easily. So anyway, just carrying a lot of weight on things that are outside my control. And that's why I was saying I have room for anxiety now. And so my anxiety riddled brain's like, what else can I worry about today? Since you have room to worry, what else can I worry about? So that's where I'm at. We are watching some horror. I have to say it like that. YouTube thinks I'm saying something else because of my accent. We're watching like classic scary movies. Well, classics for me. Like Rocky Horror Picture Show. We watched the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie, which has Christy Swanson, Donald Sutherland, and Paul Rubens, by the way, who plays a vampire. And it's so funny when you look at now. I look at him and realize that's Pee Wee Herman. That's quite funny. I love that movie. Luke Perry's in it. Love it. It's classic growing up. I just love that movie. I think we got maybe Shaun of the Dead. We've got maybe, I don't know. I've watched that a lot. We got Cabin in the Woods to watch. We got the first Beetlejuice to watch. I am not watching the second one till it comes out on regular rental prices. Even though I've heard it's good, I'm going to wait. And just stuff like that. Like we're just watching kind of stuff like that. That show from I talked about that's on MGM and Amazon Prime. Third season coming out right now. It is excellent if you like spooky things. Highly recommend it. I am plugging that like forever to everybody I know because I feel like that show is being slept on and people just don't see it because it's not like on Netflix or Hulu. Um, but I might go to my parents this next weekend when Reese seems stable enough now that I can probably leave her for a night and it should be okay. Haven't had a chance to stay with them for a little while, so I do want to go visit with them some. My brother and I are talking about possibly going to a convention in December in Atlanta. It's an anime convention. I can't remember the name of it. Um, and yeah, like I said, the new roles kind of it's a it's not super overwhelming right off the bat. It does seem like it's going to be my speed, and I can take what I've learned in my previous role and I think really do some good stuff on this team. And so it'll be a lot of just learning the new role, getting to building email campaigns probably for next year is my guess. We're going to be starting to build those out. And as long as everybody's health hangs in there, um, things are pretty good right now. So scared to say that. Very scared to say that. I feel like every time I do, the universe just hates me putting that to actual words. It's why it's hard for me to be optimistic or to do like verbal gratitude type things because I feel like the universe, I've done something. I don't know. I don't recall breaking a lot of mirrors or running under ladders. I did have like four black cats at one time. So maybe it's just the collective number of black cats I've owned over the years. Because if you count black and white, like that's over half the cats I've owned. Um, if it's that and we're talking superstitious, then that's probably where all the bad luck comes from. But that's okay. I love black cats, and so I guess it's a given. But I feel like I've just perpetually pissed off the universe where I can't have good things. I can't acknowledge I have good things because then the universe is going to be like, "Oh, I forgot about that. Here, let's muck that up for you." And yeah, I know it's a very pessimistic viewpoint to have. My therapist doesn't agree with it, but so far I haven't been able to break me of it yet. So, anyway, okay, I've talked enough. This is very long. For those of you that have stuck around and listened to me babble, I appreciate you more than you know. I do not get out much in the world in terms of people I don't constantly see on the internet other than my parents and my brother. And so online, my friends online, this channel, that's really where I build my friendships and I get like my social bar met. And so I really appreciate y'all and listening to me babble about nonsensical stuff. At the very least, maybe if you're going through a tough time, which I know a lot of us are, maybe this just distracts you for a little while. And if I can serve as a distraction and nothing else, then I still feel accomplished. So, all right. Like I said, I will be back this weekend with some completed pictures. I don't know if I'll have another video, especially if I spend a night at my parents'. But we will go from there. And November is going to still be more Halloween. I know some of y'all are going to be like tired of seeing Halloween, but I didn't get anything colored at all in September, and I gotta have 2 months because there's a lot of things I got to, but there's some things that I just absolutely still want to color. So it's going to be more fall, more Halloween. We'll deviate a little bit. There are going to be some more cats that I didn't get to, so it's probably a continuation of October with some other stuff thrown in. But anyway, love y'all, appreciate you. Talk to you soon, and bye for now.